Hey, I hope you guys are doing good today. We are going to be continuing on our Titanic series. I am enjoying it so far. I don't really watch like one video, but I love that one. So I am uh I am here for it. Today we're going to be watching about the second class meal. So I don't know what this is going to include. I'm sure it's going to look good. I'm sure we're gonna hear some cool stories. At least I'm hoping so. If you do get a chance, I'd appreciate if you can leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. And I will have Tasting History with Max Miller's video linked in my description below. So be sure to go and give him lots of support. He does an amazing job, so be sure to go and subscribe to him. But all right, let's uh let's get started. Also, for you guys, if you had missed it from my animal videos, and you watch the food videos and you missed my announcement, I will be um, doing 4 videos a week instead of 6, and then 3 live streams, like what I've been doing. So I'm just cutting back 1 video from each, just a heads up for you guys. And who do we have behind us today? That one looks really cute.
When it comes to the Titanic, the first and third class passengers get most of the publicity, while second class, the coach class, often gets neglected. Well, not today. Today we are talking second class lifestyle with a
Yes, we need to acknowledge second class. This looks delicious, though. This looks really good.
first class dish of sautéed chicken lyonnaise, served at the very last meal on Titanic. Thank you to Vite Ramen for sponsoring this video as we cover the second class, the forgotten class, on Titanic. This time on Tasting History. So today we're covering the second class, but the dish that we're making was served to the first class as part of the fourth dinner course on the night of the sinking. So I chose to do this dish rather than a second class dish from that last night because 1, it sounds really good, and 2, because it could have very well been served to the second class just on a different night that we don't have a menu from. Often the dishes were served to both classes on different nights. When it comes to
Oh, that's crafty. That's very crafty. That's actually good thinking there. It's like so then, you think you're eating something different than, like the other classes. That is good psychology right there.
menu from. Often the dishes were served to both classes on different nights. When it comes to the recipe, we must look to Auguste Escoffier. The restaurants on the Titanic were often meant to resemble those at the Ritz Hotel, where Escoffier was the head chef. And his recipe for this dish is a little bit different than its modern counterpart, which is usually coated in flour and some herbs, but he calls for a plain sautéed chicken with sauce lyonnaise. Heat 50 grams of butter in a pan, add 250 grams chopped onion, and cook slowly to a golden color. Add 2 deciliters each of white wine and vinegar, reduce by 2/3, and add 7.5 deciliters sauce demi-glace.
Oh my God, this sounds so good. You got butter, white wine, and some vinegar and some onions in there. Oh man. Oh, I I'm already sold on this meal.
Simmer gently, skimming as necessary for 5 to 6 minutes, and pass through a sieve. So the sauce is the star here, otherwise it's really just plain chicken. And his recipe I'm going to cut down a little bit just so it makes enough sauce for 4 chicken breasts, and they should be fairly small chicken breasts. As I said, this was part of the 4th course of 10 courses.
10 courses. I still can't get over like how many courses there are. This is like it just seems wild to me. A 10 course meal. Oh my God.
Fairly small chicken breasts. As I said, this was part of the 4th course of 10 courses.
I will say that like some of the stuff looks really good. Some of the stuff I actually have no idea what it is, but some of this stuff looks or sounds really good.
So the dishes tended to be rather small, just a few bites of everything. But even then, after 10 courses, I would imagine one feels rather bloated. Something you
Yeah.
won't feel after eating ramen from today's sponsor, Vite Ramen. But to make chicken lyonnaise, what you'll need is 2 tablespoons or 28 grams of butter, 2 small onions, about 150 grams, chopped julienne, aka strips, a little less than a half cup or 100 milliliters of white wine, a little less than a half cup or 100 milliliters of white wine vinegar. Now this is the big difference between this version and the modern version of this sauce, the amount of vinegar that Escoffier calls for, and you would not be wrong in cutting it by like 75%. But for today, since this is the amount he calls for, that's what I'll be using. And now for the secret sauce.
I kind of like really strong, like wine vinegar taste though. So I feel like this is like right up my alley because I love salt and vinegar combinations, like whether it's like chips or goldfish or something. Or French fries. I love that combination. And I think I like more like lemony or like acidic type sauces a little bit more when it comes to like pasta or chicken. I don't know. I definitely feel like I lean more on that side. So if it's kind of strong, then I usually love it.
For today, since this is the amount he calls for, that's what I'll be using. And now for the secret sauce of this sauce, you need 1.5 cups or 350 milliliters of demi-glace. Demi-glace is a rich brown sauce that is absolutely magical, but it can take up to 8 to 10 hours to make in the modern version.
Oh my
And if you
god.
go by Escoffier's version, it takes 48 hours to make.
Takes 48 hours. Oh my god, this is some dedication back then. That was dedication. Holy. Is there like a hack for this? Hopefully he says there is.
To make in the modern version, and if you go by Escoffier's version, it takes 48 hours to make.
Gosh.
Luckily, you can also just buy
Ah.
it concentrated, and I'll put a link in the description to where you can get that.
Say this is why we like him. This is why we appreciate him. You know, he knows, he knows what's up.
No doubt making it from scratch does taste better, but that's a lot of work, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure that my palate could tell the difference. Now, Escoffier calls for veal demi-glace, which is a much darker, rich brown. I am using chicken demi-glace, which is a little bit on the lighter side, but they're both magical. So first, heat the butter over medium heat until melted, and add the chopped onion and let them cook for about 10 minutes, occasionally stirring
I don't know about you guys, but like butter and some oil and onions, when you start cooking them in a pan, I love that smell. I just love that smell.
until they are golden brown.
So you know
Try not to
stuff's
let them
good.
burn like mine did. Clearly my pan has some hot spots. Also, you want a nice deep pan for this. Then lower the heat a little and add the white wine and the vinegar and let it simmer until it reduces to 1/3
I bet this smells so good. I bet it smells so good. I feel like this could be so good.
little and add the white wine and the vinegar and let it simmer until it reduces to 1/3 of the original amount. Then pour in the demi-glace and let it simmer for another 5 to 6 minutes while you prepare your
I also can't say that I think I've ever had something that required demi-glace in it. This is like a new thing to me.
chicken by seasoning it with salt and pepper. Heat a bit of vegetable oil in a skillet over medium-high heat and place the chicken in the pan and cook for about 5 minutes, then turn and cook for another 5 minutes. Like I said, this dish would have likely also been served to the second class, and unfortunately, through my research, I found that the second class is the least written about class on the ship, which
Oh no, how can we forget about them? I would have thought that I would think that second class would probably be like a decent amount of passengers on there. 'Cause I mean, like, you're right in the middle, like, you're not super poor and you're not super rich, which would put you in the middle, like, second class, like, hence their name. But I would imagine that there'd be a lot of people in there.
research I found
So, like, maybe nobody cared enough to document them, you know, their their travels or something.
the second class is the least written about class on the ship, which frankly I find odd, seeing as most of us, at least me or
Yeah,
I, would have been in the second class. Though the middle class was,
so true. He's spitting facts. So true.
at least me or I, would have been in the second class. Though the middle class was smaller in 1912 and the
Oh,
Titanic
okay.
reflected that. There were about 329 first class passengers, 710 third class, and only 285 second class.
Oh, okay. So it was a lot smaller. Okay, okay. Well, I guess that kind of makes sense that I mean that's 200 compared to everybody else definitely is a lot smaller and um then you have to like take a fraction of that of people that maybe actually cared like who um cared to like write things down from their day to day or whatever, that gets significantly smaller probably.
Passengers, 710 third class, and only 285 second class. But if you were in the second class, this is how your voyage on Titanic might have gone down. Pun very much intended. So there were a few places where as a passenger you could have boarded the Titanic. In Southampton, England at noon on April 10th, later that same day in Cherbourg on the coast of France, or on April 11th in Queenstown, Ireland, where some of the very last photos of Titanic were taken. Interestingly, most of the photos
I love this photo though. This photo is
were
really
some of
cool.
the
I love this. That's a cool photo. That's a really, really good one. I I really like this. This should be a poster.
very last photos of Titanic were taken. Interestingly, most of the photos of the Titanic, at least on board, are actually of her sister ship, the Olympic.
Oh. I mean this one looks really pretty too. There's something about boats that were, like I don't know, like around this time and maybe like a little bit later too that I feel like there's like a certain aesthetic to them that I just appreciate and I just like seeing them.
And I'll touch more on that ship and their other sister, the Britannic, all built in Belfast, Ireland, in a future episode. But if you were in the second class on Titanic, you probably were boarding at Southampton, England. Likely, you had taken the 8:30 a.m. train from London, which was especially meant for Titanic's passengers. There were actually two trains, one for first class and one for second and third class. And they were both a little bit late, but the second and third class train didn't get to port until 11:30, only a half an hour before the ship was meant to
Oh my
leave.
gosh.
Luckily, since you weren't third class, you didn't have to go get checked for lice. Rather, you could just walk onto the ship on sea deck. Immediately, it would hit you that the Titanic was quite a cut above most other ships.
I feel like 30 minutes isn't enough though. I mean, can you imagine rolling up to this and then just having to be kind of like shuffled in like really quick? Like I don't know. I would want to like stand outside or if there was a like God forbid there was a line, which I mean obviously they probably wait for you for everybody to get on, but I don't know. I would probably like be taking pictures or wanting to, like scope it all out, but 30 minutes before you leave seems a little stressful. Or at least to me.
Immediately, it would hit you that the Titanic was quite a cut above most other ships of the day. They spared no expense. You'd descend a fine oak staircase to
Oh,
your
it's
cabin, though
really
unlike in
pretty.
third class, the second class cabins were much more varied. So much so that sometimes the best second class cabins could be used for first class cabins, and the worst second class cabins could be used for third class cabins. But most were right in the
Oh.
middle. They were designed for two or
Oh my gosh, look at these. Oh, these are pretty. This looks cozy. This looks very, very cozy. These bunk beds look really small though, but I don't know, like I would assume beds on cruises are probably kind of small anyways. Like even today maybe unless you are you got those big bucks and you get like a suite or something maybe.
cabins could be used for third class cabins. But most were right in the
I
middle. They
love
were
this.
designed for 2 or 4 passengers, and if you were single, you likely shared a room with a stranger. Great way to meet people. And if you didn't need
Oh my god, no. Oh no. That is my worst nightmare if I ever had to travel alone and then had to share a room with a stranger. That is that is some no, that is something that is never on my list. It's not something I want to experience and yes, that sounds absolutely terrifying to me.
and if you were single, you likely shared a room with a stranger. Great way to meet people. And if you didn't need all of the bunks, some could be folded up into an upholstered sofa. Upholstered because you didn't have lice. The rooms had running water, though
How
it wasn't
nice. How nice. How nice. You got to have some cushion just because you're lice free. What if they did have lice though? I mean, like it's probably possible, right?
sofa, upholstered because you didn't have lice. The rooms had running water, though it wasn't hot and cold from the ship's pipes like in first class, but instead came from a tank that had to be periodically filled. Like third class, the ship's beams were often left visible, but like first class, they were furnished with fine mahogany furniture, and a few even had carpet on the floor. You
Oh,
also had more storage than a third class passenger, but one thing you didn't have was your own toilet or bath. Those were still shared accommodations. Now, most people at the time
fair
would have
enough.
considered second class really top drawer, better than first class on most other ships. But there is always someone who's going to complain.
True. You can never make everybody happy, so don't even try. Like you'll never make everybody happy. That's just how it is.
Most other
Even back then, see, like some things never change.
ships, but there is always someone who's going to complain. During the Senate inquiry following the sinking, Imanita Shelley used her official affidavit as less of a discussion of the sinking and more the way that you would complain in a Yelp review. Instead
Oh
of being
God.
assigned to the accommodation purchased, we were taken to a small cabin many decks down in the ship, which was so small that it could only be called a cell. It was impossible to open a regulation steamer trunk in said cabin. It was impossible for a third person to enter said cabin unless both occupants first of all crawled into their bunks.
Oh my God. You know, It it doesn't surprise me, but at the same time, it's kind of funny seeing this and then realizing that, like, people literally talk like this today. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it's not in the same, like, flair that they used back then, but, like, I feel like people literally still talk like this or make, I guess, remarks like this today for, like, the smallest things too.
She complained in a note to the ship's purser that she was very ill and, owing to the freezing cold of the cabin, was in great danger. And if the purser refused to act, she, Mrs. Shelley, would appeal to the captain.
Oh
I would like to
gosh.
speak to the manager of the Titanic. Thank you very much.
That's exactly what it is. Oh my God, this is like Titanic passenger Karen. Oh Lord. Oh my goodness. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love our Karen videos that we watch. If you do get a chance and you want to come by the live stream, we do watch Karens. But like, dear God, this is a this is a Titanic passenger Karen. Oh my goodness. This is where the lineage comes from.
Mrs. Shelley would appeal to the captain. I would like to speak to the manager of the Titanic. Thank you very much. And sadly, after working in restaurants for many years, I have realized that complaining actually works, and it worked for her. She and her mother were upgraded to a better cabin. But even
No.
then, she said, this cabin, though
Oh no. See, this is why you don't do it. You don't give in to them because they're just gonna keep complaining even more. Oh no.
were upgraded to a better cabin. But even then, she said, this cabin, though large and roomy, was not furnished in the comfortable manner as the same accommodation procured on the Cunard or other lines. Then she went on to
Well then go put your ass on that boat then. Like why are you on this one? Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is wild. Who knew? I mean, I guess I should realize that there probably were Karen types back then too, even though the Karen arc is very strong, in currently and in the last few years. But the fact that that we have one documented here, I love. I love this.
manner as the same accommodation procured on the Cunard or other lines. Then she went on to complain about the food, the toilets, and even the temperature of the air outside, though they were too
The temperature of the air outside. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is her fault. This is her fault. All the Karen ancestry. This comes from her. This.
about the food, the toilets, and even the temperature of the air outside, though they were too far north for the season and there were icebergs about, and so maybe she had a point there.
Yeah, but what would she want the boat to do if it's that cold outside because it's you know wintertime and there's little icebergs out there? Maybe put a jacket on or you don't go out there. Like I mean, yeah, you can complain that it's cold, I guess, but I don't know. I don't think it's good. It's not going to do anything for you.
North for the season and there were icebergs about, and so maybe she had a point there. Though she also complained about being uncomfortable in the lifeboat, which included, and I quote, a crazed Italian. But Mrs. Shelley was definitely in the minority.
She was complaining in the lifeboat. You are literally in a like huge disaster and you still found time to complain, ma'am. Ma'am.
Included, and I quote, a crazed Italian. But Mrs. Shelley was definitely in the minority because
Well,
most
good.
second-class passengers seemed overwhelmingly happy with their cabins and with things like the fact that they had
Oh.
a barber shop on board and a library decorated in the 18th century Adams style.
Oh, I love this. I love both of these pictures. This barbershop looks so classy. Like it looks very comfy and like, you go in there. I mean, I guess I don't know if men and women went in here. I mean, he said barbershop, so maybe I'm assuming it's just men in here, but like this looks very nice. If I go in there and like smoke a cigar or something and like get a shave of some sort, I don't know. This looks really nice.
They had a barber shop on board and a library decorated in the 18th
And this looks really nice too. This looks like a very like cozy, relaxing atmosphere to be able to read.
century Adam style, where you could borrow a book or sit at one of the writing desks in a plush green
Oh,
upholstered
that's
chair
very
and write a
nice.
letter home that could be posted from the Titanic, as she was a royal mail ship. You could often do this while listening to the string quintet that played 3 times a day outside of the
Oh,
library.
wow.
The second class also had some of the best promenade space.
I bet that was really nice though. Imagine like, I don't know, like writing a letter or something, or I know some people don't like to read with background noise, but I feel like this would be very nice. This would be very relaxing.
A day outside of the library. The second class also had some of the best promenade space on the ship. There were long covered spaces with deck chairs on B and C deck, but if you really wanted to feel the wind in your hair, then head on up to the aft boat deck. You
Oh,
could
that's
lounge in the
cool.
shadow of the fourth funnel, which wouldn't even have any smoke coming out of it, because that funnel was actually pretty much non-functioning as a smokestack, but rather there for decoration and to help ventilate the lower decks. You would also have a great view of the stern, but it
I love all this footage and all these pictures and the paintings and stuff. I love this. I feel like there's something that we just need to like appreciate about history and just like how far we've come. And even though this is like kind of like a pretty big tragedy that happens, but I still think that we should at least respect it and acknowledge it and understand, just see like kind of like how cool it was.
would have been harder to look off the side of the ship due to lifeboats being there. The first class had a lot more space on the boat deck that was unencumbered by those pesky lifeboats, though the original design would have had lifeboats there as well, 48 in all, enough for everyone on board. But J. Bruce Ismay, chairman of the White Star Line, believed the deck would look too cluttered, and so dropped the number of lifeboats to 16 lifeboats and 4 collapsible lifeboats, making it all the worse that he made sure he was on one of those lifeboats.
Yeah, that ugh. I hate that. I hate when you read about stuff like that of like people who cut corners like that purely for cosmetic reasons. It's like, lifeboats are important, and in this case, they were extremely important. You know what I mean? Like, oh man.
When the ship went down. What's crazy is that even those 20 lifeboats were more than were required by law. And that was because the law was rather outdated and was written not dependent on how many people were aboard, but the tonnage of the ship. And since it hadn't been updated in years,
That's kind of wild that your lifeboats would go by how much your boat weighs. Which I mean, like I guess it kind of makes sense in one way of like maybe like you probably don't want to like weigh your ship down, but I also feel like being able to fit everybody that's on there is probably just as important too.
people were aboard, but the tonnage of the ship. And since it hadn't been updated in years, it maxed out at 10,000 tons. But the Titanic was 46,000 tons. Now, when it comes to second class food, again, it's really a first class experience. In fact, both classes' food was made in the same galley or kitchen and featured many of the same dishes. The biggest difference was simply the choice and quantity of those dishes. Instead of multiple restaurants, second class only had one. It spanned the width of D deck, letting in lots of
Oh,
natural light from portholes on either side.
I mean, this looks like a very, very nice area. This looks like a great experience. I would love this.
Spanned the width of D deck, letting in lots of natural light from portholes on either side, and it could accommodate 394 passengers. It was well lit with lamps in the ceiling and had a piano to provide music during meals. In fact, it was also kind of music that called you to your meal. While third class was called to meals with a bell and first with a bugle, second class enjoyed the dulcet tone of a gong. You'd sit at
Oh.
large communal tables in mahogany and crimson leather swivel chairs that were bolted to the ground. But it was not open seating. Everyone was assigned a different seat, so you better hope that you're not sitting next to a loud chewer, because you might not be able to move. And while the meals aren't as
That is kind of weird though, that you got like assigned seating like that. Like you get to sit and eat with this person for for the duration of our trip. What if you didn't like them though? What if they stunk? Or, like, were just really annoying and then you had to eat with them every day?
Better hope that you're not sitting next to a loud chewer, because you might not be able to move. And while the meals aren't as decadent as first class, they are a lot more robust than third. An 8 a.m. breakfast included oats and hominy, fresh fish, and Yarmouth bloaters. That's a smoked and salted fish with a very unappetizing name. Ox kidneys.
That's kind of true, yeah. I was just gonna say, like, what is that? Because it does not sound good. But I mean, like, that doesn't really sound crazy, though.
That's a smoked and salted fish with a very unappetizing name. Ox kidneys and bacon, ham, eggs and potatoes, scones and buckwheat pancakes with syrup. Take away the kidneys and bloaters and I'm on board.
Yep,
Now in third class, the big meal
100%.
of day was dinner that was served at noon, but in second, they had a smaller luncheon, saving room for the evening dinner. This started with a consomme tapioca, then baked haddock with sharp sauce, then you had a choice of entree of curried chicken, spring lamb with mint sauce, or roast turkey with cranberry sauce.
I mean, this sounds good too. This all sounds good.
I love Thanksgiving all year round.
Yes.
There were sides of peas, turnips, rice, and potatoes, and then desserts of plum pudding, wine jelly, a coconut sandwich, and American ice cream. The first class enjoyed
It's a coconut sandwich. What's in that? That sounds like my type of little treat there. I love coconut.
wine jelly, a coconut sandwich, and American ice cream. The first class enjoyed French ice cream, which tends to be a little bit creamier and is made with eggs, though in my house, American or French ice cream are perfectly welcome.
Yes, yes, I do not discriminate against any type of ice cream. All are welcome here as well.
The meal ended with cheese, fruit, coffee, and nuts assorted. This traditional setup of a meal is where the phrase "from soup to nuts" came from. In fact, second class passenger Kate Buss recalled, "On the night of the wreck, our tables were a picture. The huge bunches of grapes which topped the fruit basket on every table were thrilling. The menus were wonderfully varied and tempting. I stayed at table from soup to nuts." Though another passenger, Charlotte Collier, thought it was too heavy and rich, but admitted that no effort had been spared to give even the second cabin passengers on that Sunday the best dinner that money could buy.
I think both of these are not bad entries. You see kind of two sides of it, but she's not. I mean, just because it was maybe like more food than she was probably maybe used to eating on a regular basis, she appreciates that this is like a whole experience too that she's getting. That obviously, I think that I would remember. Boat crash aside,
After dinner, the men often adjourned to the second-class smokeroom, decorated in the Louis XVI style with
that's
chairs of
pretty.
dark green Moroccan leather and patterned linoleum tiles, and of course featured a well-stocked bar. Benjamin Hart was actually playing cards there on the night of the sinking and didn't get to his room until 11:30. His wife Esther was also awake when he got there, but she wasn't getting ready for bed because she spent most of the day sleeping and stayed up all night watching. See, she had been anxious ever since her husband told her that they were sailing on the Titanic, because she felt that the ship's reputation for being unsinkable was flying in the face of the Almighty.
Oh, she knew. She knew. But that is kind of crazy though that she'd sleep during the day and stay up all night because she uh she felt something was a little bit off. I can't blame her though, but I feel like that is some some crazy insightfulness.
Ship's reputation for being unsinkable was flying in the face of the Almighty, and she didn't believe that the ship would even make it through her maiden voyage. Her husband probably mocked her, but only 10 minutes after he got to his room, the entire room shook.
And then she said, "I told you so." She's like, I told you this was gonna go bad."
Another second class passenger, Lawrence Beasley, also felt the jolt but didn't think anything of it. A moment later, when the engine stopped, he did decide to get up and go out just to see what had happened. He saw some men playing cards in the smokeroom and asked what was going on, and they said that they had grazed an iceberg that they had seen pass by the window just a moment before. Now you'd think that this would be cause for alarm, but it wasn't. They went back to their cards, and Lawrence went back to his cabin. A while
Oh
later, he
God.
heard people going upstairs, and so once again he decided to leave his room and went outside and noticed that the ship was listing forward ever so slightly. He thought that maybe a few compartments had flooded in the front, but Titanic was made for that, so everything would be okay. And again, he went back to his cabin.
Oh, everything was not okay though. Oh my gosh. It's amazing how nonchalant some people are about things, and then you have like the total opposite of like totally like paranoid people. But I would say in this case, you you were probably better off being more paranoid.
Then he heard a crew member calling for all of the passengers to come out onto the deck with their life belts. And so he put on some warmer clothes and his life belt and went up out on deck. But again, he thought it was just a precaution and said that everything was calm and nobody was panicking. And then they saw crew members uncovering the lifeboats. Men were told to stand back while the
It took you till then to realize that that something was seriously wrong. I mean, you could have done a quick investigation too and probably realized like, "Oh my God, the boat is, you know, uh, totally wrecked here." Bro, come on.
and then they saw crew members uncovering the lifeboats. Men were told to stand back while the women and children got into the boats, though they were slow to do so, feeling that the boats were less safe than staying on the ship. And so Lawrence stood and watched several boats lower half full. Still no
Oh
panic.
no.
Then when lifeboat 13 was ready to go down, again not entirely full, a crew member looked around and called for more ladies and nobody came, so he told Lawrence, "You better get in."
I think you would have to tell people like you gotta just suck it up. Like we can't have these half full. No, we gotta get as many people in these as we can because we don't have enough. And so if you're uncomfortable, like tough cookies, honey, like you're gonna have to deal with it.
Around and called for more ladies, and nobody came, so he told Lawrence, "You better get in," which he did. But as the boat lowered down, they realized they couldn't find the pin to release the boat from the ropes. And it turned out that the Titanic was pumping water out of the side of the ship, which formed a stream that pushed their lifeboat right beneath lifeboat 15 as it lowered.
Oh
It
no.
very nearly crushed them and would have had someone not had a knife and cut through their pulley ropes so they could push away from the ship at the very last
Oh
moment.
gosh.
Then they rode out into the darkness, and it was dark. It was a moonless night, and the only light was from some stars and, of course, the ship itself. Also, there was no wind, so the water was perfectly calm. He said that from a distance, everything on the
Oh, I bet that felt really like really eerie like that's such a eerie type of setting and night set to be a part of when it's, like there's no wind and there's no moon and this huge boat is sinking. Oh yeah, I bet that just created like a really, really like scary, eerie night.
was no wind, so the water was perfectly calm. He said that from a distance, everything on the ship looked normal, except that he did notice that the water was now covering the bottom row of portholes. Then at 2 a.m., things took a turn. She slowly tilted straight on end with the stern vertically upwards. As she did so, the lights in the cabins and the saloons flashed once more and then went out altogether. At the same time, the machinery roared down through the vessel with a groaning rattle that would have been heard for miles. It was not yet quite the
Oh
end.
gosh.
To our amazement, she remained in the upright position for a time which I estimate as 5 minutes. It was certainly for some minutes that we watched at least 150 feet of the Titanic towering up above the level of the sea, looming black against the sky. Then, with a quiet, slanting dive, she disappeared beneath the waters.
I can't imagine witnessing something like this. I mean, you're in the lifeboat, which I guess is good because at least you're gonna probably survive. But I can't imagine watching something like this. It's like horrifying and probably just incredible at the same time. But to see this big of a ship sink, it just I can't imagine what being like a witness to this.
Then, with a quiet, slanting dive, she disappeared beneath the waters. Then, there fell on our ears the most appalling noise that human being ever heard. The cries of hundreds of our fellow beings
Oh
struggling
no.
in the icy water, crying for help with a cry that we knew could not be answered. We
Oh,
longed to return to pick up some of those who were swimming, but this would have meant the swamping of our boat and the loss of all of us. His is one of the best accounts of what the
I feel like his was like such like so detailed and so real. Cause it's like I think it's like a hard thing to balance in these situations too, because like you have, let's just say like your boat is actually full, right? So your boat's actually full, but then of all the people that are in the water that either jumped or ended up in the water like that, make it very, very dangerous for everybody else. Because like as much as it sucks that they're kind of stuck swimming around, like they're gonna swarm your boat and probably sink you, and then you guys are all like effed, you know? So I feel like this is a very, very real account of like how panic can be so dangerous, but at the same time, it's like you kind of have to, like, if you're in the better position to survive, like, unfortunately, that's just kind of how it goes.
and the loss of all of us. His is one of the best accounts of what the people in the lifeboats saw as the Titanic finally sank. And second class did fare far better than third, but even then, 166 were lost and only 119 survived. And
Oh,
among the survivors
gosh.
was the worrying night owl Esther Hart and her daughter Eva, who later credited their survival to her mother's refusal to sleep at night.
I would too. I would too. What happened to her husband though? Did her husband die on there? Because they said that these two survived.
Daughter Eva, who later credited their survival to her mother's refusal to sleep at night. Unfortunately, Esther's husband, Benjamin, could not get into one of the lifeboats,
Oh.
and he died in the disaster.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's so sad though. Had he just listened, maybe he would have had a chance. Although maybe he wouldn't have gone either because I feel like this is a time where like there were a lot of men that would sacrifice themselves for their family or even just, like a bunch of women and children that they didn't know. So I wonder if he just, like he wasn't going to leave until he knew that, there was enough space for him and he wasn't necessarily like stealing like a woman or a child spot.
And he died in the disaster. Now, we will be getting to the first class stories, which in many ways are the most interesting. But first, we're going to cover the crew. Often in books, they are just as neglected as the second class. But without them, the ship wouldn't have moved, everything would have been dirty, and there would have been nobody to make some chicken lyonnaise.
That's
So
true.
once the sauce is ready, pour it through a sieve, and then pour that
Oh
onto the
man,
chicken
that
and
looks
then
good.
garnish with a bit of the onion. And here we are, sautéed chicken lyonnaise from the
This looks delicious. Where do you get this plate though? This plate's gorgeous.
and then garnish with a bit of the onion. And here we
I
are,
like
sautéed chicken
I like the whole
lyonnaise from the last
presentation.
meal on the Titanic.
Oh, it's
Mm,
good. Oh, it's good. Yep. Yeah.
that's so good. That is so complex. You get the onions, but it's not oniony at all. It's more just dark with a gentle sweetness. A lot of times today they end up putting tomato paste or even sugar in it to make it sweeter. It doesn't need that. It's so wonderful, and the vinegar is a little sharp. I would
See, I like that though. If the vinegar's a little bit sharp, I think this would probably be perfect for me though. I I love that like a little bit stronger zing it has, but I mean this looks like it's really, really good regardless.
and it's the vinegar is a little sharp. I would probably cut the vinegar in half at least, but it's not bad. It's just it almost overpowers some of the other flavors that I want to be tasting. I do think that a demi-glace made with veal would be even better, just warmer. But this is
Mm,
kind of nice and light, and you still get the chicken flavor. It's not overpowering. It's fantastic.
it's
So more
delicious.
Titanic ahead. Make sure to like this video. Follow me on
Yes.
Instagram, Tasting History with Max Miller,
Yes.
and I will see you next time on Tasting History.
I love this one too. I love this whole series so far. I know we're only 2 videos in, but I love this I love this whole series. This was really interesting though. I didn't realize that second class was that small. I really thought it would be the opposite. I really thought second class would be pretty big. The couple accounts that he was reading off, like especially that last one. I feel like that last one like really kind of like hit home of just like kind of how crazy it was and really sad. But this was great. Loved it. this looks absolutely delicious. Let me know if you made this and if you enjoyed it or not. I might have to add this to my list of a million things that I want to cook. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to go and subscribe to Tasting History with Max Miller. He is just absolutely wonderful. So be sure to go subscribe. And that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys had a great day, and I will see you in the next one.